You ever get that feeling like you're showing up every day for something that doesn't want you anymore? My name's Phil. I'm 38 years old, living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been a self-employed plumber for about 15 years now. I grew up on grit. My old man believed if you weren't sweating, you weren't working. He taught me that your name meant something, that if you told someone you'd do a thing, you did it. Simple as that. I live with my fiancée, Tessa. Or I guess I should say I share a house with her, because lately, it don't feel much like we're living together. We've been engaged for 2 years. Got the ring on her finger right before the pandemic hit, thinking we'd get married once the world calmed down. It calmed down, but we didn't. These days, it's like we're two shadows moving through the same space. No fights, no yelling, just nothing. I've been putting in 60, 70 hours a week. Tessa and I had this dream, an auto shop. Something we'd run together. Her dad was a gearhead, and she grew up under the hood of a Mustang. I figured if I put in the overtime, we'd be set within a year. A shop with her name on it. Our shop. But lately, she cancels on plans. Won't hold my hand in public anymore. When I kiss her goodbye, she barely turns her head. And she's out more. Late nights with her yoga group. Staying over at a friend's place. Sometimes coming home smelling like smoke and cologne. Still, I told myself this was just a phase. Stress. Burnout. That if I held on, if I worked harder, she'd see I was still here. That I believed in us. So I planned something. I'd been fixing up the garage, put some old curtains up, bought a string of lights, set a little round table in the corner. I picked up her favorite Thai food, the one place that makes those extra crispy spring rolls she likes. Got a bottle of Riesling too, even though I think it tastes like syrup. I even wore the stupid button-down shirt she bought me for Easter last year. The one with the tiny flamingos on it. I set it all up like a damn movie scene. Lit a candle. Turned on some Sam Cooke. And I waited. Every minute that passed, I thought, she'll be here soon. She'll walk in, see this, and maybe we'll talk. Maybe we'll laugh like we used to. Maybe she'll remember I'm not just the guy who unclogs toilets and pays bills. She showed up 2 hours late. Slightly buzzed, eyes glassy, hair a little messy like she'd just rolled off someone's couch. But she smiled when she saw the setup, kinda surprised, like she'd forgotten who I was for a second. Oh, wow, she said, blinking at the lights. This is sweet. I smiled, pretending my heart hadn't been melting in my chest for the last 2 hours. Yeah, I said. I thought maybe we could have a night. Just us. I pulled out her chair, and she sat, crossing her legs slowly like she was still trying to remember how to be here. I sat across from her, trying to pretend it still mattered. Trying to pretend I hadn't already seen the ending, written all over her face. Tessa was still in her coat when she sat down. She fumbled with the zipper for a second, gave up, and shrugged it off like it was too much effort. Her cheeks were flushed, not the way they get when she's happy. The kind of red that comes from a few drinks and not enough dinner. She looked around the garage like she didn't know where she was. This is really sweet, Phil, she said again, smiling at me, almost like she meant it. I didn't know you could be romantic. I forced a chuckle. Well, I do own a toolbox. Comes with hidden talents. She laughed, a little louder than it called for. God, you sound like my uncle. We started eating, sort of. She picked at the noodles. I pushed some chicken around. Sam Cooke was still humming in the background. I had this idea that we'd talk about old memories or maybe daydream about the auto shop again. And for a few minutes, it almost felt normal. She told me about the lady at yoga who farted mid-stretch. I told her about a job where a raccoon fell through a ceiling tile and landed in a client's tub. We laughed. We really laughed. And I let myself believe we were still in it. The wine helped. I poured her another glass. She poured herself a third. Her laugh got looser, her shoulders too. She slouched back in the chair and propped her feet on the milk crate I'd turned into a side table. You remember when we drove to Eureka Springs? I asked. She grinned. That nasty motel with the heart-shaped tub? That thing had mold growing in it. And you still insisted we get in. You said, this water feels like regret. She let out a small cackle and shook her head. You were fun back then. Still am, I said, quieter. She didn't answer that. Just took another sip and looked off toward the garage door. Then, out of nowhere, she said, you ever think maybe we're not supposed to be doing this? I blinked. Doing what? This. She gestured between us, nearly sloshing her wine. The house. The future. The shop. All of it. My stomach dropped. Tessa. I mean, don't get me wrong, she said, setting down her glass and leaning back. Eyes half-lidded. You're a good guy, Phil. You always were. You work hard. You try. But I don't know. You don't know what? She reached up and rubbed at her eyes like they were suddenly too heavy. I just never really pictured myself with a guy like you long-term. The air felt like it cracked open. I couldn't say anything. My body went still, like even my bones were trying not to make a sound. She kept going, her words sloppy and cruel in that way only drunk honesty can be. You're sweet. But like, I don't get excited around you. I never did. I swallowed. Are you serious right now? She winced. That came out wrong. No, I said, voice barely above a whisper. It didn't. She looked away. Then, after a pause, she added, I've been seeing someone. The words hit like a sledgehammer. My ears rang. She looked at me then, almost apologetic, but not really. Just a few times. He's a bartender. From yoga. I sat there, completely still, as her words echoed in my head. Bartender. From yoga. Never really pictured myself with a guy like you. She leaned back again, rubbing her temples. God, I shouldn't have said any of that. I'm gonna be sick. And with that, she slumped back in the recliner in the corner and closed her eyes. 5 minutes later, she was snoring softly. And I was still sitting there, staring at the flame of the candle as it flickered and died. I didn't sleep that night. I laid on the couch in the living room, staring up at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the fridge and the occasional shift of Tessa's body in the bedroom. She'd stumbled inside around midnight, still half-drunk, kicked off her shoes and collapsed face-first onto the bed without a word. She didn't even take off her makeup. I just stared at the ceiling, my mind stuck on a loop. You're sweet, but I don't get excited around you. I've been seeing someone. Not a fight. Not even a full-blown confession. Just a quiet demolition of everything I'd been building. Like she'd pulled out a single brick and the whole thing crumbled with it. I wasn't angry. That was the strangest part. I wasn't yelling or pacing or throwing things. I just felt cold. Like I'd stepped out of my body and was watching it from across the room. Like I was already gone. I thought about all the times I'd made her coffee before work. The late-night gas station runs for the gummy bears she liked. The savings account with both our names on it. The blueprint for the shop. Her name first on the sign. I'd done it all thinking we were a team. But I realized, lying there, that I'd been playing on a field she walked off a long time ago. Maybe it was never about love. Maybe it was comfort. Stability. A man who wouldn't cheat, who could fix the sink, who didn't mind shouldering all the bills. Maybe I was a placeholder until something more exciting came along. A tattooed bartender from yoga class, apparently. At dawn, I got up. I didn't make a scene. I didn't write a note. I didn't even pack everything. Just the essentials, a duffel bag, my toolbox, a couple changes of clothes, and the photo of my granddad and me from when I first opened my business. I took off my engagement ring and left it on the nightstand next to her side of the bed. She didn't stir. I walked out of that house with nothing but my breath and the cold morning air. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. I drove until the sun was high enough to cast shadows. No destination, just a straight line away from her. By noon, I landed at Wayne's place, my old buddy from trade school. He owned a mechanic shop a couple towns over in Bartlesville and lived in a small apartment above it. I helped him rebuild his transmission last winter when the shop heater died. When I called, all I said was, got a duffel and no place to be. He didn't ask questions. Just said, room's yours. The next few days passed in a haze. I kept working, couldn't sit still. Helped out around Wayne's shop, took a few jobs of my own, slept on a lumpy mattress above a buzzing ice machine, and listened to the quiet. A better kind of quiet than the one I'd had with Tessa. By day 5, I knew I couldn't leave anything half-finished. So I called Jason, my business partner on the garage property. He handled the legal and bookkeeping side of things, while I did the plumbing and sweat equity. Hey, I said, we need to talk about Tessa's stake. He was quiet a moment. You want her name off everything? Yeah, I'll buy out her share. Whatever we filed for her contribution, just draw up a termination agreement. I'll wire the money. You sure? Positive. I wasn't going to let someone who'd laughed at my plans and shared my bed out of convenience keep one nail in my future. I opened new accounts, business, savings, all of it. Everything with her name attached, I shut down or rerouted. Even canceled the joint Spotify. Stupid, maybe, but I didn't want her listening on my dime anymore. The final thing was my sister. I texted her. Block Tessa on everything. Don't give her my new number. Don't tell her where I'm staying. Not now, not ever. She didn't argue. Just replied. Understood. You okay? Getting there. The last piece was the letter. I didn't want some messy screaming match. No final conversation, no twisted apologies. I had it typed up at a FedEx center, signed and notarized right there, termination of engagement. I paid extra for the good envelope. Hired a local courier to hand-deliver it to the house. 2 days later, I got confirmation of delivery and nothing else. No call, no text, no email. Good. I didn't need a response. That wasn't the point. This wasn't some dramatic exit with slamming doors and final words. This was subtraction. Quiet, clean, and complete. She started calling the day after the letter landed. First, it was my old number, 6 missed calls before noon. Then texts, rapid fire. Phil, what is this? Are you serious right now? You can't just ghost me. I didn't respond. I'd already switched numbers. Left the old phone powered off in a drawer at Wayne's place. That weekend, she showed up at the garage. Not Wayne's. The original shop, The one she and I had picked out together. The one I'd gutted and drywalled on my days off. I got the heads up from Jason. She's here. Won't leave. She stood outside for 3 hours. Cried. Yelled. Told anyone who would listen that she just needed to talk to me. Like we were in a romantic comedy and not the aftermath of a slow, silent betrayal. Jason kept the doors locked. Eventually she drove off. The next week, my sister texted. She's trying to stall the legal stuff. Wants mediation. I didn't answer. Jason had already filed the paperwork. I'd paid the fees in full. Notarized. Final. She didn't want mediation. She wanted leverage. A pause. A delay until she could twist it around and make herself the victim. She probably thought I'd feel guilty. That I'd miss her laugh, her smell, the way she used to curl up beside me when I got home late. And yeah, some nights, my hand still reached across the bed out of habit. But then I remembered that night in the garage. Her words. The bartender. And my hand just fell on cold sheets. A few days later, she got the second packet. Jason's update read. All property access revoked. Utilities split. Her name's off the deed. She signed it the next morning. No argument. No dramatic speech. Just a scribbled signature and silence. I think that's when it hit her. That she hadn't just lost me. She'd lost the shop. The future. The stability she thought she could always return to. She thought she could storm out and be welcomed back with open arms. But the door had already closed. And I wasn't on the other side anymore. Word started trickling back to me about a month after she signed. I didn't go looking. People just talk. Especially in a town like Tulsa, where bartenders and yoga instructors overlap in the same brunch circles. Apparently, she leaned hard into nightlife. Started showing up at that rooftop bar on 11th almost every other night. Same place she used to say was too loud for her vibe. Now she was a regular. She bounced around with that bartender guy for a while. His name was Drew or Devin, something with a D. Tattoos, man bun, the works. He'd post pictures of them together, her in low-cut tops and bright lipstick, him behind a bar pouring drinks with one hand and groping her waist with the other. But then the post stopped. The next rumor hit like a hammer. She was pregnant. And he left. Didn't even wait around for the test to come back. Just vanished. Some mutual friend said he told people he wasn't ready to be a dad. Another said he felt tricked. Classic. I didn't know if the baby was real or if it was just another desperate move. But the fallout was. She sold the loft. The same loft I spent 4 weekends renovating. Ripped up old carpet, laid the hardwood by hand, sealed every damn baseboard with precision. She posted some dramatic caption online about starting fresh and letting go of material things. What she meant was she couldn't afford the mortgage. Her friends started to disappear too. One girl, Kendra, I think, messaged me out of nowhere. Said Tessa had been couch hopping and asking for loans. I just wanted to give you a heads up, she wrote. She's not doing great. I didn't reply. She'd burned every bridge and expected someone to still carry her across the river. But all her bridges were made of favors and Instagram filters. The second the money and sparkle dried up, so did the company. Even her yoga studio, the one she practically lived at, stopped tagging her in photos. She used to float through that world like she belonged to it. Soft-spoken, well-dressed, effortlessly adored. Now, she was the story people told with a shrug. Yeah, she kind of fell off. She's going through something. I haven't seen her in a while. Eventually, even the whispers faded. And every time someone tried to bring her up to me, I just nodded and changed the subject. Not out of anger. Not out of pity. Just because I didn't care anymore. Whatever she was chasing, she'd caught it long enough to see it had no teeth. Just shadows. Just echoes. She thought freedom meant no consequences. But all she really did was set herself adrift with no anchor and no one left to call. And I'd stopped listening for the splash a long time ago. It had been a little over 4 years since I walked out of that house. I was living in Broken Arrow now, running a small motorcycle refurb shop out of an old firehouse I bought on a whim. Stripped it down, rebuilt it from the pipes to the bricks. Same way I'd rebuilt myself. That morning, I had just brewed my second cup of coffee and was sorting through invoices when the bell above the front door rang. It was her. She looked older. Not in a bad way. Just like life had finally caught up. The hair was still long, but no curl. Makeup was lighter. Her eyes were duller. But more than anything, she looked tired. Like someone who hadn't slept through the night in a long time. Phil, she said, like the name surprised her. I didn't move from behind the desk. Tessa. She stepped in slowly, like she didn't know if she had permission. I wasn't sure you'd still be here, she said. I heard about the shop. I've driven past a few times. I nodded, kept my face neutral. You need something? She bit her lip. No. I mean, not like that. There was a long pause. I just wanted to see you. To say I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. She looked around at the walls. Tools hung in neat rows. Photos of me and Wayne and a few apprentices at various stages of greasy victory. The smell of oil and steel filled the room like a comfort blanket. "This place is nice," she said softly. "Really nice?" I nodded again. She took a breath. "I messed everything up. I know that now. I wasn't ready back then. I thought I wanted. I don't even know what I thought I wanted." She looked at me with watery eyes. "I've been through hell. I lost the loft. The baby. It wasn't real. He left anyway. Everyone left. It's just me now." Her voice cracked, but I didn't flinch. "I don't want anything from you," she added quickly. "I'm not here for money or a place to stay. I needed you to know I regret what I did. Every part of it. And if there's any part of you, any small part, that could forgive me, maybe we could talk." I watched her for a long moment. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. I stood, walked to the door, and held it open. She blinked. "Phil." I looked her in the eye. "I forgave you a long time ago. But there's nothing left for you here." Her face crumpled, but she didn't cry. She just nodded, stepped outside, and walked to her car. And I closed the door behind her. Quietly. Firmly. No slam. No words. Just done. A few weeks after Tessa showed up, I found myself standing at the back of the shop, watching one of the new apprentices, Jeremy, fumble with a carburetor. He was 19, barely out of high school, always had grease on his face and a habit of over-tightening bolts. But he asked questions, stayed late, and didn't flinch when I handed him the hard jobs. Reminded me a little of myself back when I thought working hard was the only thing that mattered. I watched him wiggle the part loose, hold it up in the light like he'd just discovered fire. He turned and grinned at me. "Got it." I gave him a nod. "Good. Don't strip the threads next time." He laughed and went back to work. I sipped my coffee, leaned against the wall, and just stood there for a minute. The shop smelled like gasoline, metal, and fresh paint. The sound of a ratchet echoed through the space. The sun filtered in through the big garage door, catching the dust mid-air. It was nothing special, but it was mine. I thought about Tessa briefly, how she used to laugh in the same kind of light, how I imagined a whole future wrapped around her smile, and how that dream turned into silence and slammed doors. But that wasn't the part that stuck with me now. What stuck was what came after. The space I was forced to step into. The people I met. The tools I picked back up not just for work, but for me. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me. And I rebuilt something better from the pieces. No, I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her pain. I just didn't think about her anymore. Not when I walked into my shop. Not when I counted the day's receipts. Not when I taught a kid how to fix a choke valve with nothing but patience and WD-40. I had built a life that didn't ask for anyone's approval. And standing there, watching Jeremy wipe sweat from his brow with the back of a dirty glove, I realized. That was enough.